So what we're building is, we're calling it the social sandbox. We're putting the least amount of barriers to entry on how you can actually interact with other players. Where most MMOs actually put a lot of blocks in how you can cooperate with the other players, and we're fundamentally different. So from the first minute when you start playing the game, you will be able to do everything you imagine with the other players. So you can trade, other people can actually help you. You can literally go onto a dungeon raid from the very beginning of you starting the journey in the game, should you find people who actually help you to do that. What we want to create an environment that actually really incentivizes people to play the game the way they like. And for some, actually just going out to the wood and cutting down the forest is something that gives you a sense of achievement, because you know the coal that you're helping to produce actually is valuable for the guild. Some people will absolutely prefer to just go to the dungeons. They couldn't care less about the coal production, but these players will still depend on each other, where there's valuables to bring from the dungeon, there's valuables to bring from the forest, and even the PvP players, they will be able to produce items that are only available through the PvP, but they will depend on the other players as well. So if you want to help somebody, give them items or build something together, we always actually really try to incentivize and never put anything that prevents people from doing that. And the things we want to achieve with this, the things like when a new player signs up, rather than them being something that for the experienced people, it being very difficult to play with that new player, we actually want that new player to be a very valuable commodity to the existing old guilds. So you actually want to get the new people into the guild because they can help you immediately. So for example, crafting the armors, you obviously need a lot of coal to be able to do the blacksmithing. And a new player can just immediately after signing up, you can get them to your home, give them an axe, show how to cut down the tree, how to bring the wood to a kiln. And that's immediately valuable for the guild as something that the new player can do. And you will need to continue to do this even after you've been playing the game for a very long time.
PAX DEI is very much about focusing on the player himself. So the hero's journey of each individual player is very much up to him or her, what choices he or she makes through the game. And more so than being an individual's hero's journey, it's also the journey of creating civilizations within the game. So you must start by building your homestead, join up with a few people, and you form a nucleus of village, which then grows into a town and even a city. And then you can build communal buildings like market squares, you can build churches, you can build blacksmithing guild houses, and then you can join up with other cities, you can form baronies, and you basically build civilizations within the game. And at the highest end, you're building kingdoms. And everything is focused on the player, both in cooperation, competition, and conflict, because we feel that's really where the magic lies in letting many people play together, rather than having everybody playing their own individual story.
Historically, endgame is defined as you first level up, and once you the level cap, the endgame begins, and you start, for example, grinding for gear. Essentially, in PAX DEI, you start at the endgame. We don't have a level progression. There are means of progressing, but what we've created is an environment where you kind of get to choose the how to play the game in a manner of flexibility that you typically find only in the endgame, and the endgame style elements you maybe would find is once you've been exploring the world, there's a deep level of just basically politics that you can involve in, because we have the communities building. Somebody's going to need to lead the communities. With PvP, you need to rally your troops to actually go and do things, and you will be able to do things like corner the market in how people are able to get resources and who are the best crafters. So there's this deep layer of social interaction that we're building into the game, and all of the kind of things where you can be a master of in the real world, you kind of can master in PAX DEI.
All of our systems tend to focus on this, not only in clan tools or how the player economy is run, but also creating positions of power within the feudal system and within the organizations in the game. So this is a game where we build civilization from the ground up, with all the positions of power involved in a feudal system. And we find that incredibly exciting. And this means that you don't start as a level 1 knight, you become the knight. You don't start as the leader of the guild of blacksmiths, you become it. And there's only one pope. So one of the things we find so compelling with the medieval times is that nobody really knows the extent of knowledge. Everybody's looking for, the Holy Grail or the Philosopher's Stone. And because so much knowledge has been lost and technology has been lost, in the dark Middle Ages, people are always on this quest of finding, rediscovering this, old magic. And there's something we want to recreate in the world. And you will find these mysterious things or parchments of paper, and you can actually, you can piece them together. And that's the way, to tell a story, both to tell a story of the world, but also to give you rewards which are out of the box.
So rather than this being something that you go onto a quest and the quest giver giving you a piece of lore, actually we're weaving it into the gameplay in a manner where you actually are going to be finding it in the game.
Meaning that you might find a magic spell that nobody has seen before, and you might hear rumors about the magical spell that somebody found. So instead of an NPC like force-feeding stories down your throat, which you don't have time to listen to because you just want to get the XP and the gold, here you actually read books about locations in the world because they will reveal hints about hidden trapdoors, hidden secrets, hidden spawns. Something might happen on a special day or when the stars align in a certain way. And these might be simple things. You might find simple things and discover some magical items or secret door. And you can tell your friends about it. But these can also be very complex things where the whole community comes together to try to solve these massive mysteries.
But it's not only you. You will be playing in a clan and building a village, maybe playing interact with the multiple clans. And all of you will be able to build the knowledge around the world and find things out. So again, what we have wanted to make is a world where actual knowledge by the players is valuable. And when you go somewhere and find a good spot for a resource, or you might find a recipe that allows you to create a magical item that other folks in your community don't know how to make, it's going to be up to you as a player to choose whether you want to share this information and because the information is valuable. And especially on the PvP, you as a clan will probably want to hold on to information that you have found to gain advantage over some of the other players.
Imagine yourself if you are living in 12th or 13th century Europe. It's a very different reality. It's where knowledge has been lost and is getting rediscovered. It's where magic truly exists and ghosts exist and the myths are real. And this is kind of the inspiration we take to build. It's basically going back to the roots of what fantasy means and building a fantasy world based on real-world mythologies. And so we go very much into the roots. So we're using a lot of medieval literature and medieval bestiaries and grimoires, using real-world magic, actual recipes for healing and ointments, and using the real-world magical properties of plants.
I'm Sokara. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Mainframe Industries. So PAX DEI, maybe the way to explain it would be, imagine you're in this amazing, beautiful world, it's huge, and you find yourself in a forest, and your mission is to find a plot for where you start building a home. And from that home, you will go on to adventures to explore the world. And this is the core of what you're doing as a player. But not only are you building that home yourself, you will actually find other players to build a whole village and do the adventures together and improve the quality of life of your clan, to be able to do all of this in this social fashion and really cooperate with other players rather than doing it alone. And seeing other people building similar villages and cities and being able to go to them and trade and do all of the social interaction you ever imagined you would be able to do the game. So with the lore, we have wanted to create something that is fairly deep and rich and grounded in reality, but something that is actually not a direct copy of any of the history. So there's multiple types of ruins, there's the dungeons, and you will be able to find snippets of the lore from the eras when these were created in the game itself. And part of the lore and mystery is also part of in the gameplay itself, so you will be able to find and examine things and actually then find snippets that help you find other places and make items in the game itself. And the area of the game that you will be able to play when the game launches is, we're calling it Gallia, and it's very similar to the areas of the world in southern France. with the influences from the Nordics were from. Development team were mostly Europeans. Obviously, we are living in Europe where there's a lot of culture and lots of historical influences around us. So we're here in this 14th century castle shooting this, and actually I've been coming here multiple times and like seeing the evolution and history of Europe is obviously had a massive influence in how we made the game, where all the items, like all of the nature is something we actually see in Europe. And so we want to reflect this very medieval feel in the game.
But building the ideal medieval world or medieval, fantastical medieval world, it's inspired by real world. The first region we are working with now is inspired by France. We call the region Gallia. And at the time, maybe 13th century, this is a very central point of Europe. So we're very much using the forests and the natural elements of southern France or the Pyrenees currently. And this means that, you know, the flora is authentic in the sense that the combination of flowers and wildlife matches. Here we have thousands of years of lore building, which we have in folklore and mythologies and and religions, and we built it straight into the game. If you find something in the game, it is highly likely that this thing actually exists in the real world, and you can read about it on Wikipedia. As an example, the legend of the basilisk. All right, how do you defeat the basilisk? We're not going to tell you, but there are a lot of folklore about how the basilisk is defeated.
The way we're thinking about the creatures is we talk about the subjective reality of people living in the Middle Ages. So instead of trying to mimic Middle Ages as they were, we're thinking about what were the things that people believed in the era, and all of that is real. So the deeper you start to adventure in the world from the safety of your home, the more fantastical things will become, the more dangerous the creatures are you will be experiencing. And we're really, again, like trying to draw from the lore of the Middle Ages. So if you've seen creatures that were believed to exist in the Middle Ages, you're likely to meet at least some of them in the game itself.
Same with the costumes. We have been researching medieval costumes from multiple areas, and we're kind of focusing on the 12th to the 15th century. And we're using the same colors, we're using the dye recipes from that era. But at the same time, it is kind of a cinematic reality. So the armors are, beautifully engraved, and it is, very beautiful things based on real-world items. Because there's an amazing amount of stuff in the real world which is so incredibly well-made and beautiful from these times.
And the gear that you're using, we don't have like deep fantasy gear with like fancy spikes all over the armor, as opposed to actually wanting to make something that feels very grounded and real, even if we made something that is like extremely beautiful, like a lot more intricate than people would have had in the Middle Ages. So we want to have this level of fantasy and kind of like just awesomeness to everything we're putting into the game, while it all being very grounded in kind of what we've seen ourselves in what Europe is and like what the history of Europe has been.
And we feel that is a lost opportunity in a lot of fantasy games which kind of invent their own visual styles out of nowhere. And this kind of grounds everything together and ties it together in a very meaningful package.
This is where we belong, exploring this vast and wondrous world. Its treasures call out to be discovered. Its ancient secrets beckon us, ever deeper into the unknown. The further we journey from the safety of the light, the greater the rewards and the dangers. This world, it is for us. Here, together, we can build ourselves a home.